Testing 1, 2, 3. Let's see if I've got audio going. Yep, I can hear it. Okay, got a 30-second delay. Sorry, guys. There we go. We got audio. Okay. Thank you, folks. Let me get an email out. Okay, 1 second. I need to get an email out to everybody. Okay, and let me test this. Okay. All right. Okay, again, just give me 1 second, folks. I'm over here going a little crazy. I had no idea that if you, because I was in Italy, so I didn't have all my tools. If you create something on the phone, it locks it to mobile. What a dumbass way to do things. Oh my God. I can't even understand the use case for that. Okay, I just got to get an email out to everybody. Okay, all contacts, custom segment. We're going to go all contacts. We're going to make this super simple. Again, give me just a second. I got to make sure that this is all working. And does that link work? Okay. Yes, that link works. Where are you calling in from, guys? That link needs to be updated. Join us live. And go back. Man, really do not need this amount of crazy, yeah? Okay, send right now. We're going to send to everybody and say like, hey, we are live. Whew. Okay. All right, last thing I got to do is see if I can go on the mobile live and make sure everybody knows that they need to head over. But wow, what a messed up system. And there's no scheduled. Like what? It's like I haven't been doing this for 20 years. Yeah. Well, that's that. So let's do a couple of things. Where are you guys calling in from? I just posted it there, so there's about a 30-second delay, and I will know the delay as soon as you guys all start replying, and then I'll have a sense of how long a lot of this is going to take. So let me move around a little bit. Okay. How's my audio? Can you hear me okay? Does it need to be turned up at all? Is my gain okay? Okay, so we're at about a 20-second delay. That's not bad. Yeah, about 25 seconds. All right, perfecto. Okay, so let's hit the record as well. Make sure I don't have anything else. And you guys said my audio is going okay and the camera is okay. And let me get this just a little bit closer. There we go. All right. Whew. I'm going to have some work to do after this. But what is the main number one problem you guys have with sculpting the figure? I want you to think about that as we start this process. What is the number one problem? All right. And as you frame this, what I want you to be thinking about is, of course, what's the problem? But I want you to be thinking about vocabulary. Very important. Think about vocabulary. And by that, I mean, do you have language to describe this problem? And this is a really important part for me in all arts, in what we do at Vertex School, what I'm doing here at Kingslien.art. Vocabulary is really important because words are the language of thought for the most part. And so if you don't have a word for something, does it actually exist for you? Right? So my training's actually as a poet. And one of the things they have talked about a lot, if I remember correctly, is that there's no word for blue, in the ancient Greek language. So Homer wrote about the wine dark sea. And there was, I don't entirely believe all of this, but there's this idea that the Greeks didn't see blue because they didn't have the word blue, right? Either way, you need a word. You need lots of words. And as you're learning and as you're growing, you need to have a vocabulary that starts to outline where you need to go next. It's a map, okay? So I've been talking long enough. Let me go see. I want you guys to put in the chat here, what are some of the main problems that you have. Drunken Meat, hello from Ukraine. Lonely Goblin, I think they say it's a type of green or something. Yeah, yes. Let's go with that. 3D Maniac, how you doing? Main problem is can block out the entire body and pose, and I get stuck making it look natural. Okay, perfect. What else? Secondary forms are my main problem. All right, Diego, I'm an environment artist. That's the problem. It's a good problem to have. Is that a first world problem? Is that how they say it? Environment art is one of the most dynamic parts of game art. It's my favorite. There's so many cool things that happen and so many awesome careers. It's amazing. Gnosis, I guess the way volumes intersect with each other. Big fan of your work. Love it. Abs for games, having the A pose look natural and not look stiff. Okay. Proportions, bony landmarks, Yusuf says. Sun is new to 3D modeling. Getting proportions consistently correct and transitioning between muscles. Okay. How to sculpt a head, proportions and volume, problems with form and volume, sculpting women, muscle placement, and then keep thinking about where to start and how to continue. Understanding volumes. And Nick, it turns out too anatomical and looks less natural. Always seem to get stuck around the eyes of the head. Okay, and so this is perfect. This is great. always think about vocabulary. So there's a lot of great vocabulary in here. But I want you guys to think like form and proportions are super high level. You need to get down. Let's say you have a problem of the eye. What's the vocabulary that you have for the area around the eye? Do you have vocabulary for what happens in the inside corner? Here, is there like 3 or 4 words that'll provide landmarks for you to map out all this space? These are the things that we want to start to build into our process, right? So let me switch over to my screen and do me a favor and make sure that you can hear me. There's a couple of things that I want to start off with. Let's close that. Yes. Okay. I think we can share this. All right, so day 1, we're going to do block out, and we're going to do all of these things. So you guys can all still hear, right? I'm going to put a little pin in that for when I said that. We're going to talk about proportions in a measurement system. We're going to talk about massing. We're going to talk about gesture. And then we're going to block it in. All right, and when we talk about proportions, we're going to talk about these 3 things. We're going to talk about head unit, basic proportions. We're going to then go in and demonstrate how we do this inside of ZBrush. We're going to go in and talk about the 3 main masses, limbs, muscles versus bones. This is all going to happen today. We're going to talk about gesture, the C versus the S, twists and corkscrews, gesture of the spine, gesture within muscle groups. Hopefully all of this gets covered. It's going to be a little ad lib, so to speak. And then we are going to block in the figure inside of ZBrush, specifically this. And so we're going to start with this figure, which is a scan of a figure that I saw in Italy. Friend of mine has this in his studio and let us scan it. And we're going to use this for a 4-week upcoming class that's coming. And this is supposed to be a young Michelangelo, sculpted in the academic tradition. But look at all of this form. Like, it's just beautiful the way that he's done that, the way he's flooded it with flesh in this area. But over here, because this is extending, this is compressing. But on the right side here, his left side, it's extending. So you actually see the bone, right? Do you see that's a bony landmark right there? Over here, that's largely getting flooded because the form is compressing. So everything's kind of spilling out. And so it's just a beautiful sculpt. I'm really excited for us to use this and get in and start to sculpt. And this is going to be the basis of what we walk through as we go through our lessons today. All right, and so I have to tell you right off the bat, Anatomy for Artists is open. And so, as you guys might know, every month I drop this down with new content or with something new. And in this particular case, you've got 4 days. You sign up for Anatomy for Artists, and we're going to be doing figure sculpting. We're going to actually do a 4-week live figure sculpting of this figure. We're going to talk about it. We're going to kind of demo some aspects of it today, and we're going to do that tomorrow and the next day and the day after that. But it's going to be a moment. We're not gonna have like enough time to hit everything that we want to hit. But when we get in and we do the live class, we're going to go in. You're going to get your work reviewed, and in 4 weeks, hopefully, you build this guy. Wouldn't that be cool? There's so much good stuff in this guy, and so right now, Anatomy for Artists is live. You enroll during this period. You're going to get Anatomy for Artists, plus you're going to get the 4-week class. All of that is included in the price, which I think is kind of it's a good deal, right? Like most artists selling a class, it's going to cost this price, but you're getting the Anatomy for Artists as well. And so there's a lot. All right. If you already enrolled in Anatomy for Artists, you're actually going to get this for free. So you got this at an earlier price. You're gonna get into the 4 weeks for free. All right, because you were a founder, and that's how I like to roll. All right. So now registration is closing soon. We are going to go live today and every day until Sunday, and then we are going to close this down. You can come down here and choose your access level. Please notice that the price every single month is increasing. So if you're thinking about waiting, don't, please, because there are people who got this at $197, and they're getting the 4 week on top of that. I treat people well. I've always taken care of people. It's something I learned from Pixelogic, where they gave free upgrades forever. So I try to treat everybody like that. And this is what you're going to get: anatomy of the torso, constructing the head. These two are done. You're going to get this figure sculpting, and then and by the end of August I should have anatomy of the arm done, and then by the end of September we should have the leg done as well. Okay, now before I move forward, and just head over to kingsline.art, please. kingsline.art to enroll. I gotta switch this out now that's a tragedy. Kingsline.art to enroll, guys, and just click the sign up now button and you can go from there. Okay. So, any questions before we go? Abs, enroll now, my friend. Okay, I'm going to jump, but I am going to keep my eye on that to see if there's any questions before we go. And again, we're going to lay out and follow this general process. So we need to talk about proportions. And so with this, I'm going to show you guys basically how I roll. I have inside of ZBrush, and this is something that you get with the class, I have this. I have several mannequins, actually. There's also a superhero mannequin like this that's super bulky, right? But I've got this little thin guy here, and this is built from a process with Edward Lanterry. Do you guys know Edward Lanterry, his book, Modeling and Sculpting the Human Figure? Inside of that book, he walks through the process of sculpting a figure. And in fact, Lanterry may be our next challenge as well. I'll probably release the arm and then do a Lanterry one, and all that, which is going to increase the price even more. So Lanterry has this process where he sculpted it thin, a thin figure, and then he adds the volume of the muscles on top of that thin figure. If you've seen the book, you should know what I'm talking about. So this is my thin mannequin. What you can't do in clay is like sculpt it and then pose it. You just can't do that very easily. They used to use lead, and lead, obviously you can do that a lot easier if you don't mind potentially dying. It just depends on where your priorities are, right? Nowadays with aluminum, just say no. Like, you need to pose the aluminum first, and then you can pose and move things around after that. But in this particular case with ZBrush, we got a lot of freedom. So I use this mannequin that you see right here for me to establish. And that means one thing. It means the proportions are already loaded, right? So let's make sure we know what the proportions are first. Let me go ahead and load in the reference that I need. There we go. And this is all coming from a book. Hopefully at some point I'm going to do. Okay, let me check to see if there were questions. Gnosis, are the live sculpting sessions going to be recorded? It's YouTube, so they're... Oh, you mean in the course? Yes, in the course, 100%. Everything's recorded. It's all done via Zoom. All right. I didn't check. Got our first enrollment. Is that what I just heard? Yes. Fantastic. 2 people who just enrolled. Let's take a quick look. July and July. All right. Oh, it is not telling me. There we go. I gotta see him in this other one. All right. We have Strahinjam and is it Malik? All right, I'm murdering the names. I'm so sorry about that. But welcome, guys. I'm so glad to have you here. I am very happy to have you guys here. Very happy that you're in and excited about this. So now let's dive in. This is based off Gottfried Bomis. This is kind of an illustrative technique that Gottfried Bomis, and I'm going to write his name. If you don't have his book, you need it. Sorry, that's an S, and that's an A. Really one of the most important anatomy guys out there. So I use 8 heads. I use 8 heads because 8 heads are so ridiculously simple. It's basically 4 on top, 4 on bottom, with easy divisions. Right here at the 2 mark, that's the nipples. Right here at the 2 mark in the bottom section, that's the tibial tuberosity. And basically the entire knee sits on top of that. Like, how much easier could you get? It's basically the bottom of the knee is the 2 head mark, right? And of course, everything is based on 1 head unit. That is the universal way of doing these measurements. So in the anatomy class, you actually build your own grid figure. You'll also see that in several of my trainings on Instagram. You'll see a grid figure. And in this particular case, we're not going to go through all those basics. All those basics get covered in the anatomy. I just want to make sure that you guys know what system that I'm using, right? And then the torso is roughly 2 heads wide. Roughly, this is of course for a male. And these things change. And then along those, you start to get little things like the clavicle is basically 0.75 heads long. So, for example, the rib cage is basically 1 head deep. It's basically, if you come up here, it's about 1.75 heads tall. Okay, and it's about 1. We can say, is that 1? I don't know if that's 1. It's like 1.1 heads wide, and then the muscles get on top of that as well. The ASIS, which we're going to all talk about tomorrow, those are roughly 1 head apart. Okay, and this proportional system is not, it's not mine. It's out there. It's been a part of the conversation for a long time. If you look at some of the guys like Frank Loomis, is it Frank Loomis? But if you look at Loomis, if you look at some of the other guys, they'll have 7.5. They'll talk about cranial units. And all of that to me is a little bit of cray-cray. You can do it if you, for example, I don't know, if you have some special niche. Robert Beverly Hale, he talked a lot about cranial units. That to me it's too much. It's way too much to me. I just need 1 head unit. And I need to know what's at the next head unit, which is my nipples. All right, what's at the next head? What's at the next head unit, right? And then I have a nice simple division system, to work with. So let me see if I can share. Oh, I can't. I'm not in Zoom. Okay. I was going to share this with you guys, but I'll see if I can't email it to you. Those of you guys on the email list at kingslien.art. Okay, let's go ahead and get back to the screen. Okay. Let me get this over here out of the way. Perfecto. I'm going to look at some questions real quick. Adrian, have you ever felt like a cheater for taking measurements or using available tools to make your work easier instead of just eyeballing everything like a real artist should. Man, thanks for saying that. I do want to pause for a second. The real artist myth is another form of machoism, and I think there's a female equivalent. I don't know what it is. It's bullshit. Like, it's not real. You know? You ever seen a group of macho guys encounter a snake? Yeah. Macho-ness lasts for how long? There's no such thing as that. And all you have to do, the antidote to this is history, is understanding history. So Michelangelo, this amazing artist, sculpted everything, by hand and by eye. And that's bullshit. He had a clay maquette, right? And he had his tools for transferring that. There's no question in my mind that he didn't have a process. Everybody uses process, okay? And so if you can, because I had it too, this idea of being a real artist, it's just gonna it's gonna sink you. The question is, what do you want to do? There we go. I lost my screen. The question is, what do you want to do? What do you want to say? What do you want to build? Right? Because if you're up in your head, you're not making art. So make art. I mean, the people I would say are cheating are the people who aren't even making art, like Jeff Koons. That dude's a millionaire. He's not even making his own work. And how many of them aren't? So that I would say is cheating. But, as it is, you just got to focus on your work and what you want to say. And you got to focus on making stuff. And eventually, maybe you'll be making millions and you won't be making stuff either. And somebody will say you're not a real artist and you'll take that $1 million and laugh your way to the bank. So don't sweat it, dude. Sculpt, work. Use the tools that are available to you. Everybody did. Michelangelo used the best chisels that he could. He didn't go and use bronze chisels. He didn't go and do, the stuff back that the Greeks were doing. He used the best he could get. All right. Lacosin, measuring's not cheating. Daniel, it's like asking if reference is cheating. Yeah, absolutely. Andrew Loomis, thank you. Frank Riley, Andrew Loomis. There we go. All right, let's get back to it. So we are going to start this conversation. I'm going to start over. And so let me clone this out. And where's my clone? There it is. And I'm going to append a thin maquette to it. And as you can tell, I don't even know where my thin maquette is. And so if you're inside of ZBrush, you can go into geometry and there is a size setting. So you can go up and down and you can see these are different sizes. But what I'm going to do to make my life really easy is I'm just going to select the top subtool and say unify, select the bottom and say unify. And then they should both be roughly visible. And that's what we want. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and turn transpose on, which is you turn the gizmo off. I'm going to look at this face and then I'm going to just drag this out and establish roughly what I think is the top. And, let's say that's one head unit right there. Okay, and then if I want that to be one head unit, then I have to go into preference, transpose units, and I set it right here in calibration distance. You'll notice I already did it because I did it this morning, right? So that's one head unit right there. Cool. Now we're going to come into this guy, turn perspective off. I'm going to just drag out and drag that to be one head unit. So right there's one head. Once I have that done, I can then just go into scale and I can scale the whole guy until he's kind of close. If I scaled him too much, he actually became a little too big. So we just had to adjust him a little bit there. right? And then now this is what we would consider to be, kind of proportions are done. We've got our transpose units. We're focusing on one head unit, and now we're into massing. When we think about massing, especially in a pose like this, and when we're starting with a maquette, we got to remember, number one, there are three main masses. Okay, the three main masses are the head, they're the rib, and they're the pelvis. Those are the three. And then after that, we're going to have limbs, which are going to be either rectangles or they're going to be cylinders, roughly, or some variation thereof, so to speak. And a lot of that's actually already indicated in my mannequin. Again, you make a mannequin like this in the anatomy class, so you kind of get your own process. But for the purposes of this demo, we're starting with one already done, because that in and of itself, it takes like about 45 minutes to do. Okay, let me make sure I'm not leaving anybody. Alvaro was asking a question. I'm not sure what you're asking, Alvaro. I'm so sorry. It says show the schedule 0.5 and below before you start. I don't know what that means. Sorry. Yeah. All right, cool. Anyways, let's keep going. So now if we go through and we're talking about massing this out and starting to establish the basic pose, there's a couple of things for us to think about. Where are the masses? We've got the rib cage. We've got the head. We're going to have the pelvis, right? And it's going to be our rib cage. We're going to have our pelvis, and we have our head. There are several other things that are also involved in this. Let's see. I think I need to increase the size of that. So small. There, that's a little bit better. Okay. There are also these masses here. The neck. There's going to be the midsection. There's the neck that we got to worry about. There's also all this connective tissue that involves the shoulder. What's all of that? That's all stuff. It's got its own complexity for us to try to figure out, how that shoulder connects in with everything else. So as we go through this is right now I'm going to be basically assessing and adjusting the massing here. Let me make sure I'm back in red. And trying to find their place in our sculpt. But I need a process. I need something that I'm going to start with to help me. And so for me, that thing I start with, Control N, show everything, is the pelvis. So I'm going to just kind of make sure that pelvis is roughly locked in. Come on. Oh, I'm using a mouse, that's why. What's his orientation? What's the orientation of that pelvis? ASIS. Sacrum. I would argue, technically, that his pelvis is pretty straight up and down. And so that's different than a pelvis is normally. Normally, a pelvis is actually tilted forward. So you can see there's actually a little tilt here. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to rotate this thing so the pelvis is straight up and down. And then that's going to throw some of this back. It's going to throw the rib cage back this way. But we want to start and make sure that our pelvis, the root of this action is relatively accurately positioned. So I'm just going to do that right now. And we don't have to worry about symmetry anymore. Trying to get the ASIS right there. I'm trying to get these guys to lock a little bit. There we go. Yeah, somewhere right there. Now, one thing to note is that his bony landmarks of the ASIS, they have a slight shift. It's not a big one, right? And I don't know, I feel like this is kind of buried under the flesh, so I feel like these are really quite straight up and down. There's a lot of movement happening here in the rib cage. But right there, I feel like that is pretty locked in as far as our orientation. So let's go back into this guy. And if anything, we're just going to give him a slight twist like that. I do think I need to, if I remember right with this mannequin, this has always been a problem. I always need to kind of fix this. There we go. Yeah, that'll be a little bit better, just so that ASIS is a little bit more apparent. Okay, and so now, like I said, it's kind of pushed everything back. Let's drop it down a little bit so it sits there. Hey, buddy. I'm live right now, so do you want to get on camera?
Oh, no.
Well, you're on camera.
Where's Mom?
I don't know. Call her.
Okay.
All right, see ya. Okay, so let's get and make sure my ASIS, is that pretty locked in? I'm using transparency. Yeah, I'm okay with that. We'll have to adjust the rest of it a little bit later as we go. Okay. All right, perfect. I'm going to hide these legs for the moment and these arms. And let's just focus on the main mass there. Let's go, and I'm gonna turn split screen on and transparency off, just so we can start to understand a little bit about what's happening and kind of walk through it succinctly. So transform split mode is one of the most important tools that I use when we go inside of ZBrush to sculpt, because it helps us train our eye. I always turn it off and check my work, right? But I'll often go here just so I can make sure that I understand the concepts of what are actually happening. And, oh, Eric is in the house. Hey, Eric. So we've got our mass of the pelvis. And before I go in and really address this mass of the rib cage, I really want to take a moment and evaluate the mass of the midsection. And see, in a normal, proper pose, the rib cage is tilting back, the pelvis is tilting forward, and this kind of, depending, you know, on what you had for lunch, this just fills in the space in between, and the head kind of sits this way forward, right? And then the legs have their natural gesture here as well. Okay, the midsection that we have here, there's some really important stuff that's happening that relates to the spine. So if we take your eyes over here into this section, we have the pelvis. We have the lumbar section of the spine, which is actually leaning back quite a bit. It's extending backwards like this. And then the lumbar section of the spine, the lumbar, this is the rib, or sorry, the thoracic, This is the lumbar. The lumbar is flexible. Sort of. The thoracic is static. And then, of course, there's the cervical, which is flexible. The cervical is the neck. Like, you can do all sorts of stuff with your neck. But the thoracic rib cage is locked in by the ribs themselves. There is movement. There is compression, lateral, front and back. But, you know, just for the sake of argument, it's not like the neck, and it's not like the lumbar. Anyways, the lumbar is kind of tilting backwards, and along that it's dragging this midsection like this. So I have to be mindful that, hey, you know, in my model I have I'm over here on the right side of the screen. I have the pelvic mass following a normal standing posture. And so the lumbar in this case is forward. It's like this. Then I'm going to have the thoracic, and then the spine, or the cervical. All of this changes in our guy, though, in the pose on the the left. Instead of the spine being a normal kind of inwards, it's actually going to come backwards like this. And then the thoracic is all of this is going to bend forward. And then the cervicals is going to be roughly the same. So what that means, for the most part, can I do this? Yeah, let's do it this way. Just to make my life a little easier, I'm going to mask by polygroup and make sure symmetry is kind of on. Yeah. Am I getting it sort of? Yeah. All right. And so let's just tilt this back. This is not how I did it myself. I did all of this really quickly. Just kind of pushing these things around. But this is how I'm doing it for you, because I want you to kind of be very cognizant of the lumbar section, right? Okay, now. That's this part. Let's go ahead and hide all of this. And let's rotate the ribs. Sorry. Turn that off. And also push them back. Okay, but it's not just that. I mean, I do have this twist to work with. And so we do need to move these guys over, move them over this way. But on top of that, if we look at this from above, do we have a twist happening here? Not really. Look at that. That's pretty straight. So we don't have a ton of twist in the core. The arms are quite loose and they're moved quite far forward. But this looks pretty straight. So wherever that pelvis is, I think we're going to be in pretty decent territory. I might just give it a little bit and then rotate it. It's actually not like that. Let's rotate it like that. And actually, I'm going to rotate it the other way, because you can see that there's this movement like that. So I want to make sure I'm capturing that. And we can use the geometry to help us get that figured out. When you are doing this work, the important part is if you are intellectually, like if you can understand intellectually what's happening here. Okay, that's for me, this is the most important part, is that you understand intellectually. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to start to play with this and just check myself, right? I'm off. Where am I off? Make sure that you get corrected, that you get, this stuff largely in the place that that you think it needs to be. Okay, so where was I before? There we go. now I'm going to take arms. Wait, let's do that again. And let's just generally move these into place. A lot of people aren't entirely comfortable with transpose. It gives them the willies, which I understand. Transpose was an effort by the madman who created ZBrush to come up with an entirely new way to move the figure. I was there for that, and it was also maybe this would actually become a rigging solution as well. There was a lot of stuff planned for transpose that didn't happen, and you know, it's a pity. The tech just wasn't there for some of the real-time skinning and rigging stuff that Ofer had in mind. When it comes to positioning stuff like this, I mean, hopefully you can see I'm very laissez-faire, and this causes a lot of people problems. So it's up to you guys, you know, if this system works for you or not. But you know, I'm gonna go in and try to find the flat plane of the face, and just get that locked in. And then use transparency to do the rest of the adjustment. And it looks like the scale of this is not good. So I'm gonna have some problems in there. Okay. All right. Solo mode. And let me just adjust that neck. Okay, I have in my guy here, I have these little sections that may or may not work, you know, for everything. But that's the shoulder mass. And so now I have to adjust the shoulder mass. The problem that we have with this particular configuration, though, is that the shoulder mass in this character, shoulders are quite dynamic, right? So I actually need to rotate that mass and position and pull that, like, you know, it's a lot of adjustment. Okay, let's get this same. I'm going to rotate that. And I think it's rotated that way as well. But this is the kind of thinking. This is what I want you guys thinking about. Like here, let's get rid of, actually, we can leave this and just go up. What's happening in this hand, in this arm, in both of these arms? One of the things that you need to know about, you know, the arm itself is just how much rotation can happen right in there. Can you guys see that okay? Let me check in the stream if that is working. Yeah, I think it's okay. I'll try to zoom in when I do these. So it's a little bit light. Okay, this arm is rotated quite dramatically. So what I'm actually looking for in this one, let me go ahead and make a little adjustment. Let's Make sure that that's colored. Okay. I want to orientate this deltoid. And so I've got the clavicle coming to the acromion process. I think that's the acromial process, spine of the scapula. And then that's coming back, and that's the medial border of the scapula right there. Do you see how I've got this little bit of rib cage obvious? It's because the scapula is pulling so far forward. And so that's all stuff we'll talk about tomorrow. But I've got that acromial process right here. I've got my scapula, or my insertion of it. And what we're learning is that this is the elbow. This is the back of the arm. This is the tricep. That's the back. And you see how much it's rotated around and rotated forward. And so this is what I want to do with the deltoid. I want to make sure that I get that rotation of this deltoid all the way so that it matches what I have here, because there's muscle fibers that are relevant in this conversation. So let's go back to this one. And you can see, let's go ahead and undo. Let's go back here. So this is what I'm going to try to figure out. I'm trying to make like, all right, does this have that orientation or not? And I think I'm close. No, I need to adjust that a little bit, adjust that. And then it needs a little bit more rotation. All right. Let's go ahead and show it. And just focus on that one part. There you go. Voila, voila, voila. Okay, now, following that, I'm also going to come in with this arm. Let's mask off just this guy. And notice how I'm going to take that elbow. That's the back. That's the elbow. And notice how much rotation I put into that. It's not a small amount, right? It was there. That was the side. And so now I've rotated that all the way around. And that's super important to make this work. And increase the scale of that ever so slightly. And now I can use the move brush if I want. And kind of push that in a little bit. And I'm doing the same thing over here. This also needs some scale. And then it also needs some rotation. Because what are we seeing here? We're seeing that's the side of the arm. So I need to make sure that I'm looking at the side. I'm going to use the move brush and just adjust that real quick. Okay, now I'm not going to do this whole figure because it takes a long time. And I'm doing this in a more, how do you say, a more instructive way. Whereas when I just did this myself, I got it done in I don't know, I think I got it done in like 10 minutes. But the process is the same. You're thinking about the rotation of the limbs. Are you looking at the side plane of the arm? And you know that because the deltoid is going to come down and it's going to insert. It only inserts into the side. It doesn't insert into the back or the front. It inserts in the side. So you follow that deltoid, wherever that is, that's going to be the side of that arm. And then the same with the legs. We're going to try to make sure that we have the top plane, the side plane. And it's going to be, that's when we do that in the first class, it's going to be really important that we kind of lock that in and we get really clear about that one. Because if you don't get that right, you're chasing it. Always chasing it. And sculpture is about setting yourself up for success. Life is about that, right? You got to set yourself up. And when we are sculpting, the best way to set ourselves up for success is by establishing the planes of these forms and having a sense of those planes. If you don't have that sense, then you have to go back to the basics and just focus on that. Don't worry about all the muscles and the anatomy. Like, focus on just getting planes and making sure you know where the rib cage is, because right, the rib cage will go this way and then the shoulders go further. Do you see that? See, I'm looking straight this way. I'm going to rotate my rib cage. Everything rotates, and then my shoulders go further. What? You can't tell the rotation from just one thing. When we're talking about the torso here, you've got ribs, shoulders. There's a lot. If you don't understand that, again, you end up chasing it in your model all the way with mistake after mistake after mistake. All right, you want to set yourself up for success, and it's highly possible that I have got mistakes in this one, right? And so that's what we're going to start to figure out, see if there is actually mistakes. But if I come in now and turn split screen on, we can just do a little bit of an analysis. And let's turn perspective on. So that could rotate a little bit more. The deltoid's not too shabby. Yeah. That angle. You see how the insertion, this could rotate. That could rotate more. This is not bad. The wrist is actually not bad. It's not bad in either one of them. The kneecap is not bad in either one of them, I think. This is a little dicey. What's happening here? I think I'm missing some leg volume, so that most likely needs to move over. And so we identify these things, and then you can kind of always come here and just check. Yeah, let's go right there. And I'm within range in most of those elements. The next element that we really want to make sure that we are clear on is our offsets of the main masses. So I'm just going to establish this pelvic structure. And I'm just going to say that pelvic structure that's God. Everything else orientates around there. So now I can take a line straight up. Okay. The head is on this side. Sweet. Looks like we're in fine shape. Okay. Let's go and say, take that up. Yeah, we've got some movement in the back. I think that, let's take that head and just draw straight. Yeah, that's not bad. And then we've got the arc of the midsection. That needs a little bit of help. So what did I do? There we go. It's a little bit better. I'm just gonna move around and just see, like, is there any place where things are not, like here? I'm chasing the silhouette. Do you see what I mean? You can see this approach, what I'm doing right here. You see this in a book by Harold Speed. This early book I read on drawing, where he talks about breaking down complex curvature into these planes. So that's essentially what I'm doing. You know, I'm looking, I'm saying, okay, so pelvis might be relatively straight, but then this is going to come out, then it's going to come in. And you can see I've got a lot more complexity. Mine's going da 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 da. And so now my job, it's not exactly to mimic that, because I've got a bunch of little forms and things that, like, it'd be a little bit of a problem. But I just want to get it a little bit more informed. There. See what I mean? Okay, come in, pull up. And then I'm missing forms here. So you can see bop, 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 and on. So I need to break. I need a transition here. This is then the tire. That's going to move out like this, then down, and then over. So really all I'm doing is I'm just missing that, you know, this form right here for the most part. And this is just silhouette work that we're doing. Okay, let's pull that forward. I think we need a little bit more stomach. A little bit of a pouch. This also has a form I need to pay attention to. Pull that up. And does that make sense how I'm going through and I'm capturing small shifts? I'm going to pause for a second. This is really important. If you don't see these shifts, you'll never sculpt them. It'll never be part of it, and you'll wonder, like, what does my work need? And what your work needs is it needs you to be mindful of those shifts, those subtle things. If you want your work to be more naturalistic, then your eye needs to be better informed, because you don't sculpt what you see, you sculpt what you know. You draw what you know, you paint what you know, you make what you know, and you get to know things through a process of a little bit of a scientific observation, where you're just looking and you're breaking things down into planes, simple volumes, simple forms. But that's what you need. Let's just see if there's any questions. It makes sense. Gnosis, how do you create these out of thin air? Totally different. So right now, if you are, let's say you are Richard McDonald. Let me go back to screen. You guys all know Richard McDonald, right? And so the question is, how do you pull these out of thin air? And the answer is, if you're Richard McDonald, you don't. In fact, he would look at you like you're a little crazy. Because he did look at me like I was a little crazy. He uses the best models in the world for this kind of work. Because he has this belief that, garbage in, garbage out. So if you're relying on your imagination, well, that's fine for a certain kind of work. But if you wanted to get into realism and work forward, you work from a model, right? Brian Booth Craig, another just amazing sculptor, works from a model. So you don't pull them out of thin air. You work from a model. And if you are trying to create something a bit more imaginative, then you would just have a library of scan data and other sculpts and things like that that you would work with. Daniel, overlay an image over your 3D. Yeah, use pure ref, but then you're just using reference again. Yeah. All right. Along these lines, last thing I want to talk about that is it's a question. Why did Michelangelo, Leonardo, Raphael, why did they draw so incredibly well? Why do you guys think they drew so incredibly well? Let's look at some of those drawings. Why did he draw like this? Why did he draw? I mean, just crazy, right? Leonardo too. So I'm going to tell you, in my view, why they all drew so well. And it's really simple. And it's because they didn't have iPhones or the Android phones. So the only way they could capture something is by capturing the 3D quality in 2D format. And the drawing of that age was actually quite advanced analytical drawing. Probably more advanced than they're doing now in Hollywood, I imagine. They captured so much information with the curvature, with the shade, the way in which a line moved around the form. That's all code. We look at it and we say that it's art and it's this pure art. Bullshit. It's code. They were capturing 3D volume in 2D, codifying volume. It's as simple as that. If they had an iPhone, they'd probably take a picture. If they had a scan, they'd probably scan it, and then they would probably work inside a ZBrush or a built ZBrush if the computer was around back then. That's my take on it, so you can take what you want of that. All right, so now I'm going through little tidbits of silhouette. So this is not horrible. But I don't have that arc, so I'm going to get that arc. I'm going to pull that back. Almost done with this. I'm going to flatten the butt. I think that inflate was a little too much. Is that chin far enough out? I don't think so. All right. Let's say we are roughly okay with this. This would be our good mannequin phase, I think. And then the next element for us to do is to go in and start to just block out some more of the anatomical form that we might be, aware of. And some planes and things like that. Yeah, let's rotate that down. Cool. Okay, what do you guys think? Kind of locked in for the most part? What time are we at now? 1 hour and 15 minutes. There's a question about deviating from the model, and we're not going to deviate from the model. I don't feel like I need to make this personal. I mean, it'll probably happen just because I'm stubborn, but no, we're replicating this model. This is a study. Okay. I think maybe I need some more volume right here. Okay, and I think that needs to move back. Yeah, there you go. And I think that's there. Did that move back? Yeah, that's better. Move the butt. Cool. Yeah, I'm liking that. I mean, there's things for us to do, but feeling okay. And if we have problems, we can always adjust. Let's go ahead and drop that in there. And then this is a little gluteal fold that'll come right there. Yeah, that's a little bit better. The arm, I think I need to make that a little wider. Too wide. Lift that up a touch, drop that down. And notice offsets and overlaps. So if we're going to see this bicep, right? You see that simplified plane there? Notice how that deltoid basically sits on top of that. So that would mean that this deltoid is going to be on top. The bicep is going to then go underneath. These are little aspects of the gesture that we need to make sure that we cover, right? And so far we've been going through this, and we've actually, started to capture all of the gestural capacity that we need. We've captured the gesture and the silhouette. And I think we've skipped a lot of gestural elements, but with this block out, hopefully you'll be given enough, you'll have enough tools to kind of see how the gesture exists in the parts. Okay. All right, almost ready to head to the next phase. There's one, oh, I'm not ready. One more phase to this. Yeah, I think we're fine there. All right, let me check in with questions. Daniel, right trapezius is too big. Okay, take a look. Yeah, I agree with you. Hopefully that's a little better. Fig, insane how the scapula moves, right? It's crazy. And Diaz, twist of the forearm looks great. Yes. So the forearms are a really important thing for you to kind of evaluate, as we'll get into when we do arms. The forearms have muscle and they have bone. And so that's what I've done here. Is originally I had just one form, but I masked off the top part and then I rotated the bottom part. So that gives me this nice bottom planar quality, and then I've got the mass of the muscle on the top, and it's the same here. It's pretty universal. It's the same in the lower leg as well. It's muscle, bone, muscle, bone. Just meaning that there's an area of the form that is more influenced by bone or more influenced by muscle. All right, we've got that. Let's duplicate that so that that's all set. Let's go into geometry, and we're going to go to Dynamesh and just Dynamesh this. I don't care about the subdivision levels. What I want though is I want good separation. So for example, you don't want that unless you're going to go Henry Moore. This is good. Do I want some separation in here? This is a bit of a problem. This is going to get us later, but I don't mind dealing with that problem later. If you do any more, I don't know, it doesn't really get you anything. If you do a little less, you're not capturing enough. It just, you see here, that's just horrible. And we haven't even really rotated this. I think I skipped out on that one. Okay, that's going to be enough. Probably should do the same with this. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. Yeah. I'm okay with that. Are you okay with that? Smooth out some of the crazy, but not all of it. Perfecto. Okay, perspective is on. I did not check it, so let's check it. Just make sure landmarks are roughly where they should be. Oh no, Ryan, you're cheating. Did you know that Carpeau didn't sculpt this in marble himself? What? You lie, Ryan. He was a real artist. I'm just a ZBrush boy. Nope. He was on a prize, a trip, a journey. So there were craftsmen. He made the clay and then craftsmen did this. Rodin didn't do his own marbles. That's crazy. You ever worked in marble? You'll know why he didn't do his own marbles. He wanted to have a social life. That shit's intense. Small little adjustments, and we are good. All right, now this is an important stopping point, and we're going to go another. Let's go another 15 minutes, folks. I'm gonna set a timer, and I want to go about 15 minutes. And then we will call it a day, and we will pick this model up tomorrow. I might do some things to adjust it, but we're going to say we got the block in, all right? And then as a reminder, y'all, remember, enrollment is open for my class. So, and you got 4 days to get in. And in this class, the Anatomy for Artists, you're going to get, let me see if I can show you. Products. Let me show you the course, guys. So there is something like 60 lectures in this one. And so there's where you create the 3D grid figure that I was telling you guys about. And then we go in and we sculpt muscles like the rectus abdominis. Then we go in and what was this? Oh, this is when we integrated the abdominis with the obliques. That's right. Then you draw that on the model, and then you sculpt the abs from scan data, where you guys have what I call a complete, just a simple basic model that we then go in and we use reference on the left, just like we're doing right now, and sculpt all of these forms. I apologize. I didn't realize there was nudity. Hurry up. I should have told you. You probably sit there at work and everybody's like, what? What are you doing, Fred? A lot of that has nudity, but there. This will pause it right there. It'll give you a sense, right? So you're looking at the scan data, and I teach you my sculpting approach, which involves my clay brush, it involves the rake brush, standard brush, knife tools, all that stuff, and then going in and developing form in a analytical way, so that it's form that actually, like, you understand it, if that makes sense. Let me look at the head. And then so we do similar things in the head, where we go in and we do an écorché on the nose. You guys build a nose. I show you all about the measurements that are important. You build the anatomy of the nose. And then you can go in and sculpt it from scans. A lot of times here I'm using sculpture, not humans, not real life humans. And in this case, the reason is that it's already codified in this. And so basically all of these are I'm expanding all of these in time. So the next thing for me to do here is actually do a sculpt of real life, so that you can kind of see the difference of, say, how the Greeks might have simplified it and actually how much they got right, which is a lot. They got a ridiculous amount right. It's crazy how they codified it. It's just beautiful. Anyways, that's all there. And we're going to do a 4-week figure sculpting class where all this stuff that you see me doing here, you're going to do it. I'm going to give you this model, and we're going to do it together through 4 weeks, really long classes to get in and make sure that you understand, the anatomy of the torso, the arm, the leg, the head, all that good stuff. All right. So again, enrollment's only open for basically 4 more days. You just click sign up now, and then you choose your option. Please, if you haven't enrolled, enroll now. If you'd enrolled in the beginning, it would have been almost half this price. Last month, it was less. Now it's $367. Please enroll now. Those who enrolled last cohort and the one before, they get this 4-week figure sculpting class for free. So I take care of the people who help me build stuff. And I learned that from Pixlogic. There was free upgrades forever until Maxon bought them. And that, that made sense, right? So I like to take care of the people that get on board and join us, as we are building these things. And so if you join, then I'll take care of you, and we're going to do our best to make sure that you have fun and you get a lot of value out of this course. All right. Any questions about this course, you leave them in the chat. I'm going to go check. I'm going to do one more thing in the sculpt. As I said, set a timer for 15 minutes, so I got less than 9 minutes. And what we're going to jump into now is talking about how to map out all of this form. So I'm going to divide this, and I'm going to use my pen brush. Set the color to black. Let's go ahead and turn the color on that one as well. And do I have the pen brush? And I set my focal shift right there. Okay, good. And now I'm going to start to find and define the bony landmarks. And I have a particular way that I do this inside of ZBrush. So if you're still here, you're still watching this, you're actually getting one of the most important parts of this lesson, how you map out form. So inside of ZBrush, I'm going to go and I'm going to take my model. Do you see that right there, that point? That's going to be the pit of the neck. So I'm finding that here. I'm going to draw a line straight like this. Then I'm going to draw it down to the bottom, and I'm going to do a cross section. And that'll get me exactly what I need. So, for example, voila, come down, pit of the neck. And I'm using the white line here in this case. Voila. Okay, let's go here. Okay. And then down, and let's go pubic symphysis. That should be the ASIS right there. That's going to be the ASIS right there. It's actually right there. So then that's going to come down. This is going to be the bowl of the belly. Ugh, don't have that right. Okay, we can get our from here pit over the neck. Okay, roughly sketching out the scapula. Make sure you get it all in 3D. Let's find that blade in the back. Let's find C7, the 7th cervical vertebrae. Right there, I got it. Right there. That's going to be the thoracic. Let's find the spine. That's the base of the thoracic, or the lumbar, sorry. Let's get that out, out, and out. Okay. No, you gotta be careful. This is why it's so important to review. Okay, let's find from here. This is our clavicle, yeah. Okay, and then we're going to come back in for our spine of the scapula, which is actually showing up to be right there, I think. All right, there. And I use the sides of the canvas to help me craft, you know, all of these essential angles. And of course we can come in and we can turn split off and then just check, right? C7, did I get the spine roughly right? But it's not a bad thing here now to just get your hand-eye coordination working in your favor, okay? Now, also, when you come into this world and we start to figure these things out, you start to learn a little bit more about the way in which I diagram out a figure, okay? And so, you know, I'm going to come in and diagram a few more things. Okay, I like to remind ourselves there is this little shape right here of the manubrium. Voila. Okay. Anything else I need to be thinking about? I can start to outline some of that trapezius. Lat. Okay. Anything else I need to think about? No. There. Those are some outlines for me now when I'm thinking about the torso that are going to really help when we come back tomorrow and we take this figure and start to try to make sense out of all of the crazy that we have going on there. Okay? Any questions, folks? I'm pretty much on time. I got 2 minutes left in this, so let's talk 2 minutes. Any questions that you have for me, let me know. And remember, enrollment is open 4 days. So at that point, closes down. You don't get the 4 weeks. You don't get the anatomy. And we'll open it again in a month when we got some new content. All right? Let's take a look at questions, though. So let me just pull this in front so I'm not staring off to the side. Let me see. Okay. Rick Husky, yes. Carpeau did not do that marble. One of the things I learned in the time I spent in Pietrasanta is just how long marble craftsmen have been doing their thing. It's pretty crazy. And around the time that Carpeau was operating, they were gods among men. I mean, they were just amazing what they could do. It's crazy. Gunshot. And would students who sign up receive any sort of feedback? So Gunshot, if you're in the 4-week class, then that's a big part of what we want to do is make sure that people have feedback on their work. We're going to have a lot of people, so we'll have a system, but we'll put feedback in there. And inside of the Discord channel, the goal is for us to have more feedback time. This month I was in Italy the entire time, and feedback was just not possible. But that is the plan. Daniel Diaz. Oh, Diaz, would I be able to follow the course using Blender instead of ZBrush? I intend you to be able to use Blender. Ultimately, you have to remember everybody copies ZBrush. I don't mean that disparagingly. I mean, of course, we're the best, so of course you got to copy, But anyways, that disparagement to the side. The goal is that you could do this in any sculpting software. Of course, my tools and my process, have to get translated if you're not in ZBrush. And I personally believe that you should be in ZBrush. I find ZBrush, it's the source, it's the most actively developed software in this space. I think the Blender people lost the main Blender person. So you just want to be in this space with ZBrush. Sculpted Stash, what time are the live sessions? They're on that page. You'll find them. They should be Saturday at 11 Pacific, but check the page. Abs, with the course, you can download, basically, you get downloads of them, and so that's your best lifetime in case we ever have to shut down the site. So yes, you can say you have lifetime. And around the world, again, check the page. So let's go screen. And we don't need to see my mug. Oh, I left my dog outside this whole time. She's going to be so pissed. Okay, so you can see here, included figure sculpting. You see the times on the front, right there, right below the fold. Okay, and then if you scroll down to the FAQs, should all be right there for you. Easter, that needs to say Eastern. Sorry. And Teresa, when is it? I just told you. So it's all on the page, guys. Just head over to kingsline.art starting August 2nd, 11 a.m. Pacific time. And you got 4 days to get in. So thank you guys so much. I'm so sorry the beginning of this was a little crazy. But it should all be sorted. I'll sort it out now with all the rest of them. And And again, thank you for being here. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for leaving me notes and asking questions. You guys make this, like, you make it fun. So I really appreciate that you guys are here and that we're doing this together. So I will see you tomorrow, same time. If you're in the email list, I'll send out an email with the new link for that. Otherwise, you just come to my YouTube channel and you'll see the live right there. Cool? All right. Any more questions? We'll get them there. And thank you guys so much. All right. Take care. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Thank you guys. Ciao. See ya.